Hey, you guys, it's Life of Nikki Lee podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're doing well and living your fullest every day. So, on today's podcast, we're diving into part 2 of the Caleb Wilson case, a 20-year-old Southern University student, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who unfortunately lost his life during a hazing ritual gone wrong. So, just to give you a couple of updates about what's happening with that case, they have gotten 2 more men. One had to be arrested. The U.S. Marshals had to go get him. His name is Kyle Thurman. He was supposed to turn himself in, but when he didn't, they had to come and get him. One guy is still at large. That is Isaiah Smith. Now, this guy is the son of Scott Smith, who owned that warehouse that I mentioned on part 1 where the ritual took place. Now, these are some serious things. Caleb McCrae, he was given a bond of $100,000. So he's already out of jail and he has to return back to court in May. And I'm kind of irritated that he's already out of jail, but justice will be served at the end of the day. And this is horrible. The more that these details come to the surface, it just goes to show you that there's nothing brotherly about hazing. There's nothing brotherly about the pledge process. It's ridiculous. The fact that Caleb was hit in the chest multiple times, according to eyewitnesses, this young man was hit in the chest multiple times before he collapsed and had his seizure. And instead of getting him the immediate medical care that could have possibly saved his life, these guys covered it up. They changed his clothes before they dropped him off at the hospital. According to the eyewitness, everyone was wearing gray sweatsuits, right? So when they dropped him off to the hospital, he was only wearing black sweatpants and white socks. So they had time to change his clothes. They did not give 2 cares in the world about him getting to the hospital on time. You guys, this is murder. I don't care how anybody wants to paint that picture. If they thought he was just unconscious and he would come back to, no. They cared more about covering themselves than saving this man's life. And so in addition to that, the university out there, Southern University, they decided to cease all of the organizations from having a recruitment. So at this point, nobody's going to cross. None of those Greek letter organizations at Southern University are going to bring in new members at this point, because something has to be done. A point has to be made. This is not worth losing your life, people. And I want to take the moment before we dive into the other things, I just want to talk to all the young people out there, especially those of you who are considering or wanting to join a Greek letter organization. And trust me, you are speaking to a woman who has crossed the burning sands herself. You really need to do your history and check the reason why you really want to be a part of something. And I'm telling you, you need to look at everything. Does this align with who you are as a person, or is it just that you want to belong to something? Because there's a deeper meaning to all of it. Don't join these organizations because you think it's going to look good on a resume and get you some brownie points, because there is a price for everything, people. Anything that wants you to pledge allegiance to a false god is not for you. And I'm telling you, it's not worth it. It's not worth your integrity. It's not worth compromising your life. And of course, we would want to look at an organization as something that helps the community. But is it really helping the community? Or is it just showing the positive side of things while doing the worst things behind closed doors? So before you all look into these organizations, you really need to take a look at yourself and why you want to be a part of something. You don't have to be a part of a Greek letter organization to do well in your community. You don't have to be a part of an organization to be a mentor to someone. You can do that all on your own. And I can tell you, as a matter of fact, and I'm sharing my own experiences here, you you can make an impact in your community by just being yourself and helping others. Looking back on everything that I've done and my experience with pledging and going through the whole process, there were so many things coming in that I wish I had not allowed myself to endure. And even though it was more mental and verbal, if you're not a strong person in mind, stuff like that will break you. You know, allowing people to treat you this kind of way. And when you really want to break it down, most people want to know, where did hazing come from? Like, what did it originate from? Because originally, when we think about Greek letter organizations, especially in the Black community, it was supposed to be a source of hope, a way of networking, a way that people could come together and do great things. So the origin, let's get back to that and how it started. So hazing basically has a deep history that dates all the way back to 387 BC. Okay. And this is what the founding of Plato's Academy. Now, at that time, hazing was called penalism. And that basically meant it was like a mild oppression and torment that was practiced upon first year students. So this basically started off in schools, you guys. So while Plato criticized that practice, it still continued through the Middle Ages. And as time went on, the concept solidified itself, you know. So basically, new students who came in, they had to recognize the upperclassmen. So they aligned themselves with being inferior and the upperclassmen being superior. And the term hazing regularly became used in 1684. This was after a student at Harvard was the first to be expelled for hitting students and having them perform acts of servitude. So you guys, it runs pretty deep. So where has this been practiced? This has been practiced in ancient Greece, all throughout Europe, British public schools, and U.S. college fraternities, as well as the military. And that's where it came from. That's the whole purpose of what you would see today in a lot of these cases. You have people who are coming in desiring to, you know, join and become a member. They have to prove themselves. And basically, the mindset of the quote unquote big brothers, big sisters, they're looking at it like, I'm up here, you're trying to get to where I am. You're just, you know, you're trying to make it. So basically, your job is to do whatever I tell you to do it however I want it to be done. And if you don't do it, you're not getting in. And this just, it just leaks down into all kinds of humiliating rituals and strategies that they inflict on these unfortunate lower classmen or members who are trying to come in and join. And it's just, it's very sad and it's degrading, it's humiliating, but let them tell it. Let these big brothers and big sisters who are doing the hazing, let them tell it. They're building your strength. They're building your character. They're teaching you how to, you know, depend on your line sisters and line brothers, you know, coming in. You have to form a strong bond. You have to learn to work together. And, you know, if you're a novice to this kind of thing and what's really going on behind the scenes, and if you really don't see it as this is not of God, you're going to think, wow, they're really, you know, bringing out the best in me and I'm getting strong and I'm doing this. When all along, that's who you are. You are a strong person. You don't need anyone to validate that. But people who are doing things that are not aligned with God and doing things that they know is basically wrong and illegal, They're going to try to make it seem like, no, I'm not hurting you. I'm helping you. And that's where common sense and your discernment is going to have to come into play, people. Okay? Because I'm telling you, people will try to get anything over on you if they know that you know nothing compared to what they know. I've seen it happen time and time again. And it's so sad because a lot of times these pledges coming in, they know they have to prove themselves and they're open to proving themselves. Nobody wants to get hazed, but they feel like, I want to show that I'm humble, I'm this and I'm that. Yeah, you can be a humble person. That doesn't mean that you deserve to be spit on or abused or talked to any kind of way. This stuff can have long-term lasting effects on people. And for some, cost them their lives. Now, so let me just bring to light a couple of things. Not just happened with Caleb Wilson. I want to talk about this young lady. I believe her name was Jordan Hankins. She was a basketball player at Northwestern University. This young lady, unfortunately, took her own life in 2017 because of what she went through being hazed by a sorority, AKA, you all know them, Alpha Kappa Alpha. And these other young ladies, I believe it was at California, I want to say, University in California, Christian High and Kanitha Saphir. These young ladies lost their lives in a drowning incident. There were taking place at, it was a ritual, I believe, called Wade in the Water. These ladies were out there in water and the tide was high, but one of the ladies got swept out and her line sister tried to go and save her, and unfortunately they both drowned. These ladies lost their lives, and I want to bring this to the light because a lot of people don't like to talk about it. It happens in so many fraternities and sororities where, you know, either it's a freak accident or, you know, being deprived of sleep, hunger, or basically being attacked. And they don't want to talk about it. The families will oftentimes sue the organizations and then they don't bring it up anymore. But I feel like this is a conversation that needs to take place. People should never forget about these things. These were people. These were someone's children. This is someone's baby that lost their lives or some way was affected. You know, then you've had drinking. There were pledges that would drink themselves to death. And it's like, at what point do we really just take a look back at all of this and say, you don't need to do this to be a part of something, people. You don't. And then, you know, let's not forget about the idolatry. People coming into these organizations and they cross over, and then before you know it, their entire personality has changed. You know, they think, oh, I made it. I've proved myself. You know, you're walking with your chin a little higher. And then some of them, it's just like they completely come out of their skin. You don't know who these people are because they're so high and mighty and they feel like everybody is beneath them. That's not right. You know, and this is a huge thing that people also need to look at that does not align with God. You're not to idolize anybody, people. Only God sits high, okay? So for people who cross into these organizations and then you start, you know, being condescending towards others and feeling like you're better than others, no, that should never be the goal. That should never be someone that you should ever want to look up to. You should never want to look up to someone who has a mindset, I'm up here and you're down there. Never. Because at the end of the day, we are all God's children. We are all somebody. You don't go around making people feel like crap due to their circumstances. That is not of God. And so With that being said, again, I just want to close this thing out with some positivity. I want to let everyone know out there, whether you've ever had anything dealing with an organization or college or whatever the situation may be, whatever you've been through in your life where you felt less than compared to somebody else, please don't feel that way. Just know that you are loved, you are important, you are somebody. You don't have to be affiliated with any kind of organization to matter. You matter, people. You are very important. You are very much loved. And if nobody has told you today, I love you, and I am saying that you are great. You are going to continue to prosper in your life, and God bless you.